Welcome to the educational research section of www.happynumbers.org. Today we are going to take a look at the accuracy and consistency of instruments, or validity and reliability, and today we're going to focus on the concept of reliability. Remember, in research, when research is using instruments, or when school districts are using prepackaged programs from publishers and things like that, the concepts of validity and reliability are very, very important. Let's take a look at reliability. Instruments are said to be reliable when they are consistent in producing their results. In other words, if you use repeated measurements with the same instrument, the results that you get will be basically the same. Evidence of an instrument's reliability is demonstrated with several statistical procedures, but it is usually reported in terms of what is called a reliability coefficient. And a reliability coefficient is a number between 0 and 1. An instrument that would have 0 reliability would not be consistent at all. You'd get different measurements all the time that you used it. An instrument that has a perfect 1 reliability coefficient would be, pardon me, you would get it the exact same measurement every time. Rarely does that ever happen, but the higher the reliability coefficient, or the closer to 1 that the reliability coefficient is, a better indication that the instrument is reliable and it is measuring consistently over time. Now, there are 4 types of reliability, and if you have already looked at the validity tape, there were 4 types of validity also. And we're going to go through each of those. The first type is called test-retest reliability. And test-retest reliability, or sometimes referred to as test stability, is determined by administering the same test or instrument again to a same group of subjects after a period of time has elapsed. So you have a group of subjects or participants, you administer the test, and then a certain amount of time lapses, maybe a month, 2 months, or whatever, and then you administer the test again, and then you statistically compare the results. If the results are very similar, then we can say that this test has good stability or good reliability. So that's test-retest reliability. And again, when you're looking at prepackaged publishers' programs, whether it's reading, math, social studies, science, with that package should come a manual, and in that manual there should be a chapter on reliability, and you should take a look at what methods they use to establish reliability and what the reliability coefficients are that they have. And test-retest will probably be one of the methods that has been used. The second method of reliability is equivalent forms reliability, or this is known as parallel forms. And this is determined by creating 2 forms of the instrument, or test, if it's a test or a questionnaire, differing only in the specific nature, not the difficulty of the item. So you have 2 separate tests that are the same in terms of their difficulty, degree of difficulty, but the items in the test are different. And if you're a teacher in school and with STAR testing and all kinds of things like that, you've certainly seen Form A and Form B and Form C. So that's equivalent forms reliability. So the same subjects are given both forms, and their results are statistically compared. If the results are similar, then we can say that the instrument has reliability. So the difference between equivalent forms and test-retest reliability is in test-retest, it is the same test that is used in equivalent forms reliability. It's 2 different tests that are equally difficult, but questions are different. So that's equivalent forms. Our third is called internal consistency reliability, or split half reliability. Internal consistency, which you rarely see, is determined by statistically comparing the subject's scores on individual items in the test, and on each of the other items, and to their scores on the instrument as a whole. But that you rarely see. But split half reliability you do see. And this is determined by dividing the instrument in half, usually odd and even numbers, and statistically comparing the subject's results on both parts. So the test is divided in half, and you compare the participants' performance on one half with the other half. If they are similar, then the reliability coefficient of that test or instrument is probably fairly high. And our last form is scorer or rater reliability. A lot of times research uses direct observation, let's say in a classroom. So there's an observer observing the student or a group of students or a teacher, and that observer is observing, but you need to have someone else occasionally come in and observe at the same time also, so that you can compare those two scores. If those two scores are similar, then you can say, well, what is being observed reliably. But if you just had one person observing, there would be no way to tell whether they were observing reliably or not. So scorer or rater reliability, or sometimes called inter-rater or inter-judge reliability, is determined by comparing the results of two or more scorers or raters or judges. Now, this is not reported in terms of a reliability coefficient. This generally is reported in terms of percentage of agreement. And when you look at the video on inter-rater reliability, you'll see what that means, what that looks like. Well, okay, so here are the four types of reliability then. Test, retest reliability. How well do participants' scores on the second test compare with their scores on the first test? If they're very similar, then the reliability coefficient is probably fairly high. Equivalent forms, that's two different tests that are about the same in their degree of difficulty, but the questions are different. Internal consistency or split half. When the test is divided in half, how well do individual test scores compare? And if they're very similar, then the reliability coefficient is probably fairly high. And then scorer or rater reliability. How consistent are observers' scores to each other? Well, again, that's reliability, another very important concept for you to be aware of, and for you to be able to critically evaluate a piece of research or some kind of prepackaged publisher's program, and take a look at the manuals and see how reliability and validity are addressed. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.